Within the next 72 hours, you are going to be initiated into the mysteries, the unknowable, the unnameable, those things that can never be spoken of, but can only be understood experientially. The pathway that will lead you to this transformation where what was ceases to be, and where what is to come is uncertain, will arrive on your doorstep through a burning question that is quite potentially unanswerable. And yet, it's the search for the answer that is the liberation and the path itself. It's the journey of the fool. It's a bit of pie in the sky ideology. I had a pie in the sky moment earlier today. I was gazing up at the clouds, and the clouds started to make the formation of the Greek letter for P, which is the symbol of pie. And it's interesting because the Greek letter P, which is pi, and that symbol that we equate with mathematics and physics and all things where we are trying to resolve an equation that seems to be completely irrational, in that it has no end to its decimal value. It doesn't end, nor does it become repetitive. And in fact, this is a particular conundrum we've been trying to resolve for quite a while. We've been trying to solve this equation for quite a while. But getting back to things that can't be spoken of, at least not in the conventional way we look at it. The phonetic value of the Greek letter pi is a voiceless bilabial plosive, which means it's a consonant sound that is produced by completely stopping airflow in the mouth with the lips closed, and then releasing that airflow without vocal cord vibration. This is not something that is spoken into existence. In other words, the answer you seek is not something that you can speak of. It's something that you embody. It's something that you become aware of. It is a perceptive quality that awakens within you. It's accessing that one note of ecstasis, that ecstatic force of creation that sounds the call of the Oran morn, the great song of existence, that can only be received by your awareness of the song that has no sound as it rises up within you. And once you arrive at this point, the numinous mystery opens up to you in the form of experiential wisdom, embodied knowledge. And this is what opens up your true life's quest. It's interesting because the mathematic aspect of pi, of course, relates to the circle. And pi is the ratio of the circumference of any circle to the diameter of that circle. And regardless of the circle size, the ratio will always equal pi. It's pretty fascinating because this concept has been around at least 4,000 years. And in fact, back in 2000 BC, the Babylonians and ancient Egyptians were well aware of pi's significance. By the start of the 20th century, we had arrived at about 500 of the digits of pi. And once we came into the computer age, that brought an awareness of the first 6 billion digits of pi, but still there's an infinite number of probable arrival points in terms of, is there any end? I don't know. This questioning. There's something about a question you have that may not have an answer. And yet it's this question itself that opens up the road for you. It leads you on a journey of discovery. It's a bit of magic in the making. Because I feel like whatever this question is, your curiosity is what's going to drive you forward. You're going to be hell-bent to arrive at some clarity, some form of answer. And yet you're reaching into this like cosmic mixed bag where you don't know what you're going to find there. And yet at the same time, you can't help but search for your piece of the pie. And looked at it through that lens, it seems like there's an innumerable amount of slices in that piece of the pie when we're looking at a circle from the perspective of sacred geometry, which represents unity, totality. And that makes me think of atoms, which we often think of as having a circular form, and yet the circles we see, they sort of, outline what an atom is to us and how their different parts function, the electrons and the neutrons and protons that make up its nucleus. These are merely simplified models used for educational purposes so we can understand. I mean, the quantum nature of electrons are governed by quantum mechanics. They don't have like a fixed defined boundary, and they don't move in a circular pattern like planets move around the sun. They exist in probability clouds called orbitals that merely indicate the likelihood of finding an electron at a particular location. So it's like you may have an idea of where you need to search for the answer, but it's just merely a likelihood, a probability. But it's very likely also that you could find yourself exploring many different pathways to arrive at what you see. And the same thing with the nucleus of an atom. A nucleus that contains those protons and neutrons, well, it doesn't have a defined circular form either. Its shape varies depending on the atom and its interactions. And it's much the same as you. You're nothing but atoms in motion. Everything is made up of that same energy. And so its ultimate manifestation is really undetermined. There's a little something you're rocking here. And there's something that you're playing with, you could say, something that you're pulling out of that quantum field of awareness. And it has something to do with a learning path that's opening up for you. Something that's going to fundamentally change you. Life's never going to be the same. That's all I know. 9:09 on the clock. The path of the wizard opens to you. It's about to get quantum. I'm going to make it quantum. Number 8, factoring very strongly. That's why 8 turned on its side represents that infinity loop. That's the same thing as pi. It's infinite. And there's something here that you're capturing that's a bit of the infinite, and it's coming through synchronicity. Much like earlier today, when I was looking up at the clouds, and the clouds formed pi. And then it was wild because after the clouds formed pi, it shifted. And it shifted into the glyph for Gemini. And I thought, oh, this is very, very interesting, because we got a major transit that's going to be coming in that involves the movement of Jupiter out of Gemini and into Cancer, where it's exalted. And it brings a rebirth of the creative life force energy. It brings a rebirth of Venus. And so this is a time when there's a certain beauty, a certain art, a certain sense of heart-wise awareness that's coming to the forefront, that awakens more of our sensual nature. And when I say sensual, I'm not necessarily meaning sexual, but I mean senses providing the roadmap. It's the feeling that dictates the flow. And it's also the feeling that determines how those atoms come together, how those particles come together creatively, vibrate together to take the form that is in response to where you're at. There's something about bridging the gap between the Mick and the Mac, really understanding the connection, the correlation. But again, it's something that can only be arrived at through following the question. And the question is what leads you on the path of synchronicity. And each step is led forward by what you're perceiving in your environment around you, which requires you to approach your path and your surroundings with the question in mind. It's like breadcrumbs that are leaving a trail to take you deeper and deeper into the mystery of the dark wood, not knowing what you'll find there. And yet, much like Hansel and Gretel could smell something sweet cooking in, well, what we come to know now is Baba Yaga's hut. Some would say it's, the tricky witch who lives at the border of the hedge. We're tempted to go further to see what they would find. I feel like you're also going to be tempted to go further into the wood. And when I think of the wood really is symbolic for the consciousness, the subconscious specifically. And there is a pathway through the proverbial wilderness there. And it does lead to a clearing, but not quite the clearing you may think. It's like almost as if you think that the clearing is finding the solution, when the solution is not really what you're looking for at all, but rather more the infinite probabilities. The infinite probabilities is what returns you to the origin point, your true origin story, which is really understanding who you are. When you also, at one point, were just particles vibrating out in that quantum field. Could be vibrating out, vibing out, only vibrating out. Out there vibrating. Well, what form should we take today? I feel like that's where you're at. Like you're okay with not knowing the answers. There's something about the question becomes the quest itself. That's how it's coming through, okay? Oh, I love it. See? You're ready to lead the charge, even though you have no effing clue. There's something that is activated, a higher awareness in you that makes you have a certain decisiveness to go on a path of exploration and search for the truth. And this is what's really bringing your fire forward. The fire is coming forward, not in the form of words, okay? The fire is coming forward more in that the path is to want to have the answers so they can be spoken of, but it can only be arrived at through the active life force, like actually engaging in your life, having the experience, something that's embodied. But once you arrive at that destination, words cease to exist. There's such an utter transformation where you once again return to being just like those particles vibrating out on the quantum field. Your truest nature, just pure life force energy. You are the colors that are painted upon the canvas of life by the Creator through your own hand. It's definitely very psychedelic kind of energy. Some of you may be journeying a bit. Some of you may be tripping a bit. Some of you may feel like you are. Yeah, I love it. Look at that. But still, you're hell bent. Like you're taking this ride forward here. You want to gain the knowledge. You want to gain the understanding of the significance. What did those ancient Egyptians know? What did they know? What clues did they have? 3, 3, 3. 9. Yes, yes, it's the path of the seeker. And the seeker says they head off in that direction in search of answers. But see, once you arrive at an answer, the journey of the seeker ends. And so there's something about that. You've been struggling because you've wanted to have something that's very solid, something that's very definable. And yet, if you were to arrive at that point, there's something quite creative that would be lost. There's something that would end up putting you at a point of complete and utter stasis. And your hunger is for something more, not to stay in stasis, not to be held in a static state. Oh, you want to line up with that gravy funnel. You want to be able to see, peer beyond the veil. You want to understand something that's ungraspable. You want to travel that infinity loop in a new way that provides you with a direct line to creative power. Yes. It's a bit of moving into the field of absurdity and looking at life through an entirely different lens. And lenses are circular too, and that's kind of interesting because what we see and what we experience, what we take in, what we perceive can very much vary according to the lens we're looking at it through, or the filters that are on those lenses. And so there's something here about you're getting an upgrade here as far as the lens you're looking through. There's some new way of perceiving things that is starting to dawn on you. In fact, it's a brand new dawn. Like there is a real distinct delineation point coming in here about the way you're traveling forward. You used to shy away from things that you didn't understand. That was something that for you, you felt like, well, if I can't figure it out, or things aren't clear, if I don't have the answer, or if something doesn't make sense, well, then, the buck stops there. I'm not going to look into that any more deeply. There's probably nothing there for me to find. Not really understanding that the solution, so to speak, has been right in front of you all along. It's been journeying deeper into the question. Journeying deeper into the unknowable is where everything you seek is going to be found. It's also something that is the seed of your wish fulfillment. in what that quest itself provides you with, the sustenance it gives you, the way it fuels your power, the way that it actually makes you recognize the creative power you hold. And with wet pants here, in order to enter into that field of awareness, you got to go all in. You can't just wade. You can't just put, your toe in and test the water. There's something about doing a real deep dive here. You've tried the other way. You've tried laying something to rest. You've tried not questioning further. You've tried shrugging your shoulders and going, okay, future not found. I guess I was in an error to think that this played some significant role in what lies ahead for me. It's like the secret is what made you feel very divided. You felt like you had to arrive at a definitive yes or no answer to this burning question. And it's sort of showing you here that the location of what you seek is actually not in the mind at all. The mind has flown the coop. It's through the center of you. It's something within you. It's something that is channeled through you where this is found. It's not the point of this or that, a yes or a no. It's not that clear cut. It's rather in between the two. That's where you'll find the path that will fill your hunger for knowledge and will awaken more of a wild exploration for you. See, there's something within you that's needing a bit of adventure here. And there may be somebody who's coming onto your path who causes you to question the perception you've had of a situation, of another person, or perhaps even of yourself, that's going to be too enticing to resist. That's what I feel. Any more clues about this for the collective? Yeah, there's something about not being able to continue to move forward the way you have, that you can't be loyal to that path anymore. There's nothing there that gives you sustenance. And no matter how many times you try to abandon the pursuit of trying to understand something more deeply, not necessarily for the sake of arriving at a definitive answer, a definitive solution, but more for how the experience itself shapes you, molds you, much like those atoms, depending on the interactions you come across. Like there's something about this that is a bit of soul smithing, that as it works through you, as the path works through you, and as the quest of the question itself works through you, it fundamentally changes you because you are the medium for the creator. It's partnership. The painter would not be able to create anything if it didn't have the canvas to work upon. And you can look at that canvas as sort of being that quantum field of awareness. And each of us are a different hue, a different color, or a different medium entirely that can be pulled from to bring in to create the image of the art we wish to see. It's a real creative, ecstatic, undefinable sort of energy. And they say that art is always very objective, it's something that it all depends on who's viewing it and what they perceive when they look at it. We hear this a lot, especially in terms of modern art, Something can look just like scribbles to another, and then for somebody else viewing it with more open perception, they can see whole storylines formed across that canvas. And this is sort of how the creator is going to be expressing itself through you, with you as the canvas, but also one of the many hues that contributes to this work in progress. It may be a work in progress that never does reach completion. It may be something that continues on. A bit of a legacy kind of energy. It's really interesting. This is what wanted to come through, though. I just know that some kind of burning question is going to arise for you over the next 72 hours, and this is quite significant in terms of your path and how it's going to lead you as you move forward, the choices that you make and the characters that start to come onto your path to join you along the way, and how those experiences, those interactions shape you, mold you, change your perspective, but also awaken within you knowledge of the mystery, things that can't be spoken about. See, because as we go deeper into the unknowable, the unanswerable, what's interesting is that the more we head into that territory of the unknown, and the more that we boldly go there without having any set definition about what we're going to find, without having to limit it with any of our BS, any of our belief systems, well, as soon as we do that, we get closer to the origin of who we are. We get closer to that one note, that one song of the Oran Moor that is the creative power rippling throughout all of existence, throughout all dimensions of time and space, beyond all borders. You're entering into borderless territory. It's on the other side here, the false face. Do you see? And make no mistake about it, as you reach into that mystery bag, you may not know what you will find, but just reaching into the bag itself is sure to pluck out a little bit of magic that you can carry forward with you, a little bit of mojo that will be working for you. And once you step onto this path, you'll recognize that you've been wearing a false face, and you'll start to become more clear with each step that you move forward into the undefinable, that what you're seeing there in that place of the undefinable sure looks a lot like who you truly are. Don't put yourself in a box. Don't put yourself in a box. This is the point of transformation. This is when the book of knowledge awakens within you. This is the story of your life. And this is just the opening words of things that can't be spoken about, things that can only be sensed, things that can only be felt on the deepest stratum of your being, things that lead you to the true fulfillment of your life's purpose, your true north. This is the goal at the end of the rainbow. It is your creation story. See, because who you've been up to now is the creation story that others have told about you, who they have deemed you to be, and you accepted your role. But now you recognize that you're a million different people from one day to the next. But you can change your mold. You can break the mold. It's not a bittersweet symphony. It's the Oran Moor. And you are one note of ecstasis, ready to have an ecstatic experience. See, it's a bit of fantasy. It's a bit of pie in the sky, and you are about to have your share. But it's not just a slice, it's infinite slices
And it's not just for you. There's enough for everyone. Infinite slices for everyone. Infinite possibilities. Infinite probabilities. Why? 6 impossible things just before breakfast you'll find as you start to ask yourself, what is that thing that truly will quench my thirst? You're not sure, but you're going to explore. And the exploration itself is the very thing that you seek, you will find, because it seeks you too. You're one and the same. There's no separation. Little pie in the sky. It's so interesting how that pie symbol I saw in the sky morphed into the glyph for Gemini. There's so much that's being communicated right now. We brought this in before, that we're going to be communicating about things in new ways. And that's because some of the things that we're starting to tap into here, we don't really have words for. And it's certain knowledge that cannot be spoken about. It's something that can only be embodied. It's something that awakens within oneself. And that is the alchemical point of transformation. Yes, see? This is when we find our place of alignment with the Four of Wands. It's through entering this field of fantasy. I'm going to go ahead and get around this Gilded Tarot here, just to see any more details that want to come through for us. So I see a few different interesting experiences that could come through here. There may be somebody in your life who becomes unmasked. In other words, a filter is removed from them that you've put on them, and there's something about that breakthrough moment that leads to some kind of question for you. And this is what sets you off on this journey of exploration. It's the very questions that are surfacing as a result for seeing somebody accurately that causes you to need to delve deeper into territory that you have no reference point for. You also may come across something in the written word, something in a book. It could even be something that you jotted down in a workbook, a notebook, an address, a number, a date book, something you put on a calendar, a note you made to yourself on your laptop, something you come across that it hits you different looking at it through the lens of the eyes you have now. Eyes that have had a lot of experience, eyes that have taken on a lot of sights, eyes that have shed many tears, eyes that have had the scales fall away and see things accurately, see a different side, a different perspective, have a different perception than they did at the time when you jotted down those words, whatever they may be. It could come through a direct download. It could come through some kind of query. It just sort of dawns upon you and you ask yourself, why haven't I never asked myself that question before? And that's what sends you off on your journey. Like me, you could be out in the elements. You can receive a bolt from out of the blue. Some kind of symbol, some kind of sign. There could be a million other people looking up at the same sky and they don't see what you see in that moment. This is why you hold all the keys to the kingdom inside of you. How the universe, the multiverse, is communicating to you is going to operate through a different mode of perception than it does between you and the next guy. And yet it's all one shared energy. You could have this moment of questioning when the seeker awakens in you. by having a stranger cross your path. And something about your interaction leaves you scratching your head and also rouses within you a curiosity. Curiosity is a big clue here. Where you find curiosity rising, there's something there to be explored. Something there that will liberate you from your indecision and will give you a higher perspective. And you'll know that you've hit the mark when you recognize that the quest itself is pouring back into you, something that you never could have experienced, arrived at, or felt fulfilled by, even if you did receive an answer. And this is going to be a liberation in and of itself. And that's also something that can't really be communicated through words, something that can only be lived, arrived at through experience. But the inspiration will come to move forward on your path with the Page of Wands. It puts a certain power in your hands that gives you the urge to take action. No longer wanting to sit and elaborate on things with hypotheses. You're actually going to want to get out there and see for yourself. See for yourself. Experience it for yourself. Let's see what else we got coming in here. You see? 8 of Wands in reverse. It's things that you can't communicate about, and yet you're still moving forward. You're moving on up, even though this is in reverse. Do you see what I mean? Sometimes moving forward isn't about traveling great distance. You can move forward and go farther sitting right where you're at without taking a single step. If you know how to travel the distance in your consciousness and your awareness. We notice when it's upright, it's like more aimed toward the ground, right? This is about getting a little bit loftier of a view. The answers that you seek require you to elevate the consciousness. As long as you stay in the place of trying to decide this or that, you won't find the way through. It'll be a stab in the dark at the best. But there's something here about getting beyond the illusion and finding joy in not having the answers, finding the peace that comes in the place where there is nothing, where there are no certainties. So many people fear the unknown, the unanswerable, and that's where everything's found. That's where everything's found. You see, it's not anything that people can really talk about because it's not something that can be communicated. And you can try to communicate it, you can try to relay the experience to another, but it's nothing that they can really grok unless they've experienced it themselves. And usually we don't experience this when we rush into situations hell-bent on answers, you know, being like a dog with a bone, totally determined, just barreling our way through. No, they often arrive when we throw up our hands and go, I have no idea. You've ever noticed that whenever you're trying to solve something, whenever you find yourself in the center of a conundrum and you're really trying to figure it out, you just cannot find a way through. Not only do you not find a way through, you work yourself up into knots. But as soon as you kind of give it up and go, okay, I have no idea, I don't understand, there's like this sense of calm and peace that washes over you. And this feels like it's this kind of experience, but it's more on an amplified, like ecstatic level. Where finally it's like this, it's like an exhale. It's like a voiceless bilabial plosive. that has simultaneously all the timelines collapsing into the way home. It comes through this gift of inspiration that's going to open up your thirst for knowledge about unknowable things. There's something coming in here for you. It's going to be a bit of pie in the sky, but it's what's going to set you off on a journey of healing and celebration. You just have to be open to it. See if you can be open to it. See if you can let your guard down. You got to be able to get a little levity in this situation. You got to be open to a new kind of flow here to receive the gift of this. You may not know why you feel driven to seek in search of understanding about this question, this thing that's puzzling you. But if you take this opportunity, you will find the balance you seek with justice. It brings you into alignment, and you find the way through. It is the very thing that will put the whole world in your hands. And you'll have the full recognition that not only is life never going to be the same, certainly not what you thought it was going to be, it's going to be so much more than you ever thought possible.